are. Welcome to the ACP-220. That's the Atlassian Certified Practitioner, I think that stands for, or Professional. I always get that mixed up. But this is the first in a new series for our Confluence Cloud Administrator certification. I'll talk more about why I'm excited about this certification, which is not something I ever thought I would say as we go. But warm welcome to everyone, and hope you are doing well wherever you are. I'll cover this again as we go, but this session is on a Tuesday. These will generally be on Mondays. So I'll remind folks at the end of this that this will be a Monday morning event usually, assuming my life stays on the rails, which it is, which is very great. All right, we'll let some folks trickle on in, but if someone could give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me, that would be appreciated. Because I always assume it doesn't work. We are that one. All the sessions. Glenn, Liz, thank you for letting me know. Chad gets his own ACP. Chad, please tell me, how did you get your own ACP exam? As he knowingly looks into the camera. All right, folks, I'll give people another moment, then we're going to dive on in. Some things you probably want to grab in advance, which I should have done. Grab a notepad, grab some paper. It can be digital, it can be physical. Just make sure you have something to write down notes. That's an important part of studying, which is honestly why we're here. It's to learn and expand our skills. So make sure you have some way of recording your own thoughts and your own additions to whatever you'll hear me telling you. Dom, thank you for jumping in. I can't recommend being in 2 calls at once, but I appreciate you and I'm glad to see you're here. So, folks, we are going to jump on in. We got a bit to cover. It's our first session on a fairly actually new certification and a new series. So I got to make sure we're all set up for success here, and it looks like we are. So first way of introduction, my name is Rob, and I'm going to drop a quick poll. Just to get us used to using polls, I'll use them quite a bit throughout this, and I'll talk more about them as we go. But my name is Rob. I've had a career in various parts of IT. Most of them involve some kind of knowledge management. I tend to be the person on the team who writes down, Rennie, who writes down a lot of things, mostly to help myself learn it, but also to help my team out. And so I got into knowledge bases early and ended up using Confluence in about 2013. And on the teams I was on, we happened to use Confluence, so I tended to become the Confluence guy. So I kind of defaulted into the role. But I never had formalized training, and that's why I do all of these sessions. You'll hear me tell that story a lot, but it's really important to me that people have support in the systems they are expected to use, especially for those of us who are expected to help manage or administer or deal with features, because I've made a lot of mistakes, and my team has suffered for it because I just didn't know how Confluence worked, or I didn't have appropriate access, or I didn't understand what a button did. And these are all kind of silly things. There's a level of sophistication we have to have, and we as admins should know what that is. Now, interaction. Debbie, just invite your whole team to come and join us. I appreciate you joining for when you can, though, and this is recorded. Please use the chat to interact. It's over my left shoulder, over on the right side of your screen. Please feel free to say hi. Please feel free to share jokes, ask serious questions, support each other. That's also very important to me, that we all have a place we can go to find other support. And these live sessions will work. And I also have a Discord channel. Please jump into that Discord channel for continued support on Atlassian topics, not just certifications. You can also support the channel, and I have a new exciting thing I need to talk about there. But please subscribe if you haven't. You'll get regular videos from me. I'll get better at posting them now that the summer is over. But also please like the stream. Easiest way to support me, hit the like button. It takes all of 3 seconds. So if you have 3 seconds, please just push that thumbs up right now. The other thing I do need to mention, this series for the ACP-220 is sponsored. So my friends at Service Rocket have a program called Crew Member. It's down below. It's honestly something that I'm involved in, but it allows me as a Atlassian professional to get some work in the Atlassian field without having to commit to a 9-to-5 job. I'll talk more about it as we go, but please hit that UR code. That will let them know you heard about them through me, and is a great, easy way to support me. So please check out that link, and I'll also drop it in the chat. Okay, on to the exam breakdown. This is the ACP-220. Nobody look. Nobody look. Nobody look. No one saw anything. The ACP-220, and that's going to bug me. My background is like slightly over. Let me see if that fixed it. That did not fix it. I will try and fix that as we go, team. Excuse me. It's broken up into a larger number of sections in some of the other exams. So keep in mind there is a good number of sections for us. Morning, Sarah. Good to see you, my friend. And if anyone's wondering why Sarah and Chad's names are green, they are channel members. Another way to get some good stuff here. So these are this is the breakdown of the exam. I'll talk about this more as we go. But the single largest chunk is our access and permissions. And this kind of makes sense to me. Julia, why are we saying Atlassian? Atlassian. I hope other people also said it when they saw that, Julie. So access and permissions are super important to every system because it's how we get in there. It's how we control who can do what. And they tend to be the biggest concern for an administrator. So we're going to start out there, and we'll talk about them more as we go. But we can see a lot of other breakdowns here. Some of these are very small, 8% of the exam. So when I'm considering how will I study for this, and I passed this exam about 2 weeks ago, I broke my study pattern down by about this much time. I'll talk more about ways we study, but take your notebook right now and just write down access and permissions is 21%. You don't have to memorize that. I'll show you where you can look it up. But it's important for us to understand what we'll be asked to do in this exam. And I'm thrilled like 80% of you have been in one of these with me before. I love how I have folks who continually come back. That is the best feedback you could possibly give me. Thank you. One more non-Confluence specific topic, but why are you here? And I'm going to put a quick poll in here. And I'm just going to put some answers. They're not all the answers. They might not be the best answers, but... And I'll put an other for comment. I can only put 4, so blame the people at YouTube. But why we're here, and nobody look, I did it again. I was in a bit of a rush to get this deck ready this morning. Understanding why you're making time in your day to come learn with me about the 220 is really important. Because this is what's going to drive you. This is what's going to help you get up. I get up at 5:30 in the morning to run these. I do it because I enjoy it. That is my why. I help other people learn. Chad, it's going to be the next certification after the 120. Amazing. Now, there's no wrong answer. There are some answers we tend to see, though. I just need to build my skills. I don't care about the certification necessarily. I need to know how Confluence works or Jira works or whatever it is. That's a great answer. This can both be an intrinsic, I just want to learn so I am a better admin. It can also be extrinsic. I want to get a promotion. I want to earn a job. I want to prove to someone else, right? That's a great answer. Another is just validation. Sometimes I take an exam just to prove to myself that I know the thing, but that can also be external. So it could also be someone else looking at us going, yes, Rob knows what he's talking about. It could be completionism. I kind of do this. Atlassian has, they call them designations, where if you get 4 ACPs, you're an Atlassian certified expert. I am now 1 certification away from that, and what do you think I'm going to go do? Get that 4th one so I can call myself an Atlassian certified expert. Liz Tanner, insomnia, interesting. Aw, thank you, Liz. Thank you, Justin. I really like that one. I might have to steal that, my friend. The point is, there's no wrong reason to be here. But if you're serious about expanding and learning, keep your why in mind. Write it down. and I'll bring this up again as we go, but this is what's going to motivate you to keep studying, to actually go sit that exam, to talk to your boss about getting reimbursed, whatever it is. Okay, enough of the generalities, excuse me. I got back from the East Coast very late last night. My flight was 9 hours delayed. So I'm still trying to figure out where I am. We've spoken about the 220, and we're just going to dig into Confluence-wide permissions. So we're going to be talking about what are all the different permissions around Confluence and how do they impact us as admins. Rodney, that's another great reason. Thank you, Rodney. For those of you who don't know, Rodney is the Jira guy, so I'm glad he is coming into a Confluence space. This is a safe space for Jira people as well, and I'm glad you're here, my friend. Okay, we're going to spend most of our time in these sessions going back and forth between Atlassian's Learning Path, some of my content that I have created, and a hands-on exploration of these things. So these are all things you can do on your own. If you have your own Confluence instance, please have that available, and please use that to dig around. Everything I do, with some exceptions, because I'm in a premium cloud instance, you can do in a free instance. So just a heads up, if you're in a free instance, you may not have all of the permissions and those kind of things. But everything else I do, you can do in any flavor of Confluence. Our first stop today is going to be the Atlassian community. And if you aren't a member, I highly recommend you become a member. I'm going to send you a link to a specific page about this exam. And this is an important page because it's a clearinghouse of everything you need to know about how to take the exam, what's on it. It's where I got those breakdowns. And they have all their other exams in here too. I'm just going to skip straight to the Cloud Confluence Admin. One thing you will notice, the designation ACP-220 does not appear here. Atlassian just calls it Confluence Administration for Cloud. I am breaking that habit. When you go sign up for the exam, it's called the ACP-220. That's how that company uses it. I'm doing my best to call it Confluence Admin for Cloud. So please keep in mind you won't see that ACP number anywhere here, and that's intended. In the middle, we've got the exam details. If you're curious about that, we've got that breakdown. And just keep in mind, you need a 2/3 score to pass. So I put that in the back of my mind, just so I'm aware of it. Frank, you're welcome, my friend. Cloud migrations are easy. The wind just kind of blows them around. You just got to wait, my friend. Eventually, it'll end up where you want it. Down near the bottom, though, there is a Start Prepping for Free button. This is where we're going to spend a lot of time, going back and forth between this and Confluence. And here we have a whole bunch of different chunks of sections. Now, each of these sections will help us learn. Thank you, Rodney. Unfortunately, it's easier for me to say ACP-220 than Confluence Cloud Confluence Administration over and over and over. I'm working on breaking that habit. Maybe I'll have a countdown like I had for that thing in Jira I'm not allowed to say anymore. And I think it's this one. Each of these is broken down into courses. Now, it is gamified, so as you complete a course, you'll get a nice little badge or something, which is kind of fun. But we're just going to start exploring Confluence Administration. Now, before we get too deep into this, we have to keep in mind most of the administration we're talking about is at the app level or at the space level. So when we think of Confluence, is there an easy diagram that I have? I don't know offhand. The biggest structure in Atlassian is an organization, and that has an org admin. That was the certification we just finished, the Atlassian org admin. Within that, though, you'll have sites and then products, or now called apps. Confluence is an app. Jira is an app. Bitbucket is an app. Each of these apps can also have an admin. That's the layer we're talking about. So keep in mind, a Confluence Cloud admin cannot do things like enforce SSO. They cannot give someone a license. They cannot make a group, which drives me crazy. They cannot, directly impact Jira. They're focused just on Confluence itself. So keep that scope in mind. Keep that definition of information in mind. Oh, look at that. They have this beautiful diagram right here. If I just kept scrolling, I would have found it. This is that structure I was talking about. The organization is the bucket. They use Acme quite a bit, or I think they got rid of, what was it, Woozlemania, something like that. Within that, there can be a site, and then within that are apps. We are concerned with the Confluence app, and then Spaces, which is an organizational unit within Confluence. So anything above that, another app, a site, an organization, doesn't matter here. One big call out in terminology, the term product has been phased out. They are now called apps. I will probably make mistakes and go back and forth between them. Also, the term site and instance can be mixed up. So keep in mind these things can also happen. The 200, Rodney, was that the old Confluence? Because there was like an ABP that I failed years ago because I had no idea what I was doing. All right. And I'm going to close this poll, but most of us just need to know how to use Confluence, 100%. So I'm going to close that out. I'm going to put one more poll. And again, I'm being sponsored for this series, which is amazing, by my friends at Service Rocket. So if you have checked out that QR code, curious what you think, but also take a minute to hit that QR code. That lets them know you came from me, and that's their main signal for, hey, Rob was helpful. I enjoy working with them. It's a great way to get some flexible work and keep going. So admin roles we spoke about, org admin, highest level. They manage users, groups, and access. App admin, this is the Confluence admin. This is what we will be or what we are. And this is the person who can control everything around Confluence. Space admins are, you'll see more space admins. You can make almost anyone a space admin as long as they're in Confluence, and they manage individual spaces. We'll spend a lot of time talking about the differences between these and the similarities between them. I won't dig too deep into org app and space admins. Again, keep in mind if you're asked any questions around licensing or removing apps, billing, site settings, that's all org admin. If you're asked about doing something within Confluence, that's probably an app admin. And if you're asked about something that relates to a space, whether it's restricted to a space or can only be done in a space, definitely it's space admin. This will keep coming up as we go, and I'll keep talking to it. Just keep in mind there are these differences. Now, one general thing to keep in mind, being an admin isn't just about knowing the buttons to push. It's about being like a thought partner, a leader, and you're proactively going and helping out. I will keep coming back to this. A large part of this series will be, how do I build an automation? How do global permissions work? How do I make a global template? How do I modify a global blueprint? We'll also talk about the why you need to do those things and how you can work with your team to help them understand the importance of, putting in proper permission sets or whatever they need to do. Confluence admins kind of take that leadership role. They are heavily involved in security and compliance, so you may find yourself working with an information security or legal team depending on what you need. But this list of things is what Atlassian believes or feels that admins are mainly responsible for. And this kind of makes sense. We're administrators, right? We need to make sure that the platform supports the team, that it can do what they need, and that they're supported by it. And whether that's look or feel or turning on certain functions or features or something else, that's on us. That is our job as the admin. User access, I mentioned we can't give someone a license or access already, but we can see what a user or group can do in Confluence. So we can kind of view what's going on. We can also have control over the Confluence site and what people can do within it. Org admins, it's mainly around managing users, Liz, and billing. That's in my mind is the easiest. Like, how do I determine what they do? They can do other stuff. But it's really around like user and group management and billing. That's the easiest way to think of it. It's not as glamorous as people think. There's also a ton of site features and functionality and configurations we have access to. Honestly, I don't know what half of them do, and I still wrote an entire course on this thing. So there's a lot we can do to customize and change things. There's also a lot of things we might only ever do once. Customizing a color, changing a space logo. But also we're going to be monitoring. We have access to the audit log. We can go in and see what's going on. Now, finding the admin tools, it's a little bit different than Jira. We just go up to this gear in Confluence. Unlike Jira, Confluence admin is within Confluence. It's not a separate app. So Jira has a Jira administration app for some wonderful reason. Confluence, it's the same app. So just keep that in mind. You don't need another app added to your thing. You just need this permission given to you by someone else. We'll spend a lot of time in there, so I'm going to kind of just keep skipping ahead. Some best practices. Again, we are admins. We're expected to maintain and monitor the system. So make sure you're regularly reviewing things. Make time to sit down and just take a look at permissions. Do they look okay? Does it look like someone has something they shouldn't? Talk to users. Go talk to people who are using your Confluence instance and figure out what they're up to. What support do they need? What frustrates them? And then make sure you know what's going on. Keep attending trainings like these. Check out my website. Go to Atlassian.com. Talk to other Atlassianers, people who use Atlassian, to make sure you can get as much out of Confluence as you can and you know what's up. Now, the really neat thing about this learning path, they all have these little quizzes at the end. These are sample questions similar to what you'll see on the exam. They are a great way to help, I got it right, prepare for the exam. And they give you a justification for each answer. So I'll talk more about using this to study, but always recommend go through these. I won't do them live with everyone, and then review every single answer. Even if you get it right, double check and read so you understand why the other answers are wrong. That'll help just get it into your head. I'm going to skip navigating because we'll do this hands-on in a minute. All right, on to space functionality and a quick coffee break for me. Excuse me. And a quick shout out to my friends at Service Rocket. All right, I'm going to drop in another poll. Just a quick poll. Have you ever been a Confluence Space app, a Confluence app admin? I'm going to mess that up. A Confluence app admin. There we go. And now I know why I look so dark. I had to change. That's not helping. I won't mess with that right now. We've got a very interesting discussion around SSO. And I will just remind folks, we have a Discord chat right here. If you're looking for more in-depth discussions, not just around certifications, hit that link. Got about 220 folks in there digging really deeply into some interesting discussions, kind of like what we see Liz and Frank talking about, which keep on going, team. I love this. All right. Now, as admins, we manage global things. So that our scope, what we can do is everything. So we can impact every space. We can impact an automation across everything in Confluence. We can impact the homepage. We can change how spaces work. So we as the app admin have these controls over access that let us do things like turn off public links for everyone, period, full stop, or anonymous links, or even page reactions. Like there's some interesting things in here. Now, some of these are a lot more important. Controlling public links can be a very big security problem, whereas page reactions is just something that might annoy people. So when I consider what do I do as an admin, I am mainly concerned with like access. Do the appropriate people have the appropriate access? If they do, great. If they don't, I need to go do something. And so I'm constantly double checking things like public links, anonymous access, etc. But we can also change, the default overview page of spaces. And this can make people's lives easier. As Rodney makes a new space, I can control what shows up on it, just so I don't have to worry too much about what their default is. All right, we're going to talk about general config and then jump into the panel. And I'll call it the app admin panel. That might not be the name for it, but where we go as Confluence admins. There is a general config page. This is one of the pages or one of the things that we will probably only do infrequently, I'll say, because it's things like changing the title or adding the favicon. I might not be saying that right, but the favicon is a little teeny tiny icon that appears at the top of a browser. The Atlassian logo right here is the favicon. The Confluence logo here is the favicon. So we can change that in our Confluence. We also get things like the general setup. So branding, how someone can contact an admin, email-wide notifications, attachment settings. Again, these are things that we'll usually touch once. How our time is formatted. This can be huge if most of your users are in Europe. They might be, day, month, year instead of month, day, year. And then we've got things like internationalization, default languages and things. So popping over to Confluence. Here in my demo box, I've got this little gear for Confluence administration. Basically, if you can see this, you're the admin. If you can't, you're not. So makes it pretty easy. And here I have my app admin console. It drops us into a mission control. If you've been a space admin, this will look very familiar, and we'll talk more about this as we go. But this is, again, app-wide. This is not restricted to just the space I'm the admin for or the space I'm in. This is everyone everywhere. And so this makes this very useful for me as the admin to monitor trends and figure out how things are changing. What I'm looking for is configuration. And so under the bottom left here, I've got this settings menu. And I can jump to settings. Honestly, I use this. It's like a little search bar, a little search tool. Over time, you'll kind of figure out where individual things are. I don't believe the exam will ask you, which settings menu does general configuration show up under? So you can just use this search to find things. We do kind of need to understand what shows up where, though. And that's both for our skill as an admin, so we don't have to struggle with the system, but also just so we can use the system. I've got another very randomized question. It looks like most of us have been Confluence app admins. Awesome. This is a question I would say no to. Mostly because I thought a favicon was a kind of transformer or something like that. Justin is an admin in rights only, never functioned as an admin. So does that mean you have the access, Justin, you just don't do anything? Huh. All right, back to Confluence. Again, in my mind, this general config is something we might do once when we first inherit Confluence or once in a long time, and then kind of forget it exists. And I say that because a lot of these settings are things that once we have set them up and once they are complete, we don't usually need to touch again. For example, the site title. I can just leave it as Confluence. Great. Or if I change it, great. Then it's just changed. I don't have to come in here on a weekly basis and modify this. Same thing with the favicon. Now, this, again, as an admin panel, it will look a little bit more admin-y, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So not that the UI is bad or annoying, but they're going to cram a lot of stuff into a lot of screens. So just keep in mind that a lot of these will feel a little bit cramped or can feel a little bit cramped. The favicons here, contacting admins. Now this allows users to reach out to admins and ask for help. You can turn this off. There's just a contact admins form where if you don't want people to be able to do this, you can just untick the box. Come back. Now, I always recommend anytime as admins we see stock verbiage, we always change it to match the tone of our organization. The default is fine. It's not going to hurt anyone. But typically when I see messages as an admin, I rewrite them a little bit. Other things in here, you can do things like change the Confluence homepage. So when someone first goes to Confluence, it'll kick them over to the HR space instead of Confluence Home. Typically, I don't mess with that one. I just let them go to the homepage. If I do change it, I make sure people know because that can cause a little bit of whiplash. Oh, gotcha, Justin. So in Justin's case, the role he took at his company gave him admin access. But the focus so far has been on Jira Service Management and Org Admin. And that makes sense. When we think of Confluence as a system, many organizations consider it just a knowledge base, and that's at the bottom of the list in terms of what do we need to manage. That said, there can be a lot of problems if your knowledge base is exposed or those public links are turned on and people can get in here. There are a lot of other features in here we should be aware of. We can shut off all email notifications. I'm not saying you should, but this is where you can do that. We can also do things like disable push notifications or likes. On most of these, I leave these turned on. We can disable avatars. This is the little icon that shows up when someone else is viewing the page with you, so people could find this annoying. And you can disable that Loom suggestion. So if your organization doesn't use Loom, you might want to shut this off just so people don't keep getting that little, hey, did you know you can use Loom to make a recording? Pop-up that happens. And then at the bottom, we've got our formatting and attachment settings. So again, most of these things, oh, and we keep going, sorry, internationalization. Apparently I'm speaking UK English right now. Most of these things, I as an admin would only touch once or maybe go in and review every 6 months just to be aware of what's in there. You can change the site's email address. So by default, it'll be an atlassian.com email, I think, like a no reply. But we can go in here and change what email is used. Now, this is where, because we are the app admin and not the org admin, we can't do this on our own. We can only pick email addresses that have already been set up by our org admin. Whoops, I don't want to see that. The org admin is responsible for adding custom emails to the domain. And if they're available, I can then use them. So this is something we just have to be aware of. Some of what we can do as app admins is limited by what an org admin has already set up. So again, thinking through that exam, if you're asked questions about email addresses, remind yourself, hey, the org admin has to help me out here or has to turn them on before I as the app admin get to use them. We've got a great discussion about groups going on here. Yes. Okay. Justin is sharing, again, just their experience with being an admin. It is not uncommon for multiple people to split up the different roles of administration. It's also not uncommon for multiple people to have it, because if Justin's out of town, you want to make sure someone else can come in and help out. So don't be surprised if you're at orgs that have 2 or 3 app admins, but one of them tends to take point and the other 2 support. Excuse me. This notification setting is also where we can turn off the recommendation email. This is the one that we get once a week saying, hey, did you know about this content? So this is where we can shut it off. I tend to leave this on unless the entire organization is screaming at me, because this can be useful information for folks. We also have Slack and Teams settings in here. So just be aware they exist under notifications. Recommendation email we spoke about in the Slack messages. This is an example of a permission that individual users can change if they're allowed to. So as an individual user, I can go into my own personal settings. Let's see if I can remember where it is, because the UI is slightly different in Jira and Confluence. I'm in my personal settings, and as an individual, I can turn off that reminder email and recommendation emails. However, if my app admin has shut them off at the app level, I can't turn them on. So there's a number of settings that as the app admin, we can override either individuals or space admins' ability to control it just because we are that app admin. We can add announcements to the top of Confluence, which is kind of nifty. I added one up here. Check out learn.hean.tech. This is an announcement banner that appears. A couple things to keep in mind. We can't really control who sees it. And by that, I mean everyone sees it. Oh, where do they hide this slide? There it is. This one, annoyingly, is not under settings. It's under admin tools. But I can come in here and I can make an announcement that shows up for people in Confluence. The only real controls I have, does it show up for everyone, including guests and external users, or is it only licensed users? And then I can schedule when it shows up. I cannot target specific users beyond that. I cannot target specific spaces. So this is really intended for anyone who can log in, sees the message. All right, folks, quick coffee break. What questions do you all have? I'm running kind of quick here because there's a ton to cram into these. But please drop questions in the chat. Please take a minute to check out my friends at Service Rocket, and I will go find that link again and drop it in our chat. And again, the crew member program is a great way for Atlassian experts to find a little bit of work with Service Rocket, partnering up and getting some projects, which has so far been a lot of fun for me. Okay. Now, we do have a number of security settings. Oh, Rodney. One of these settings is hiding external links. Now, this does its best to hide this will help you hide your Confluence site from others on the internet. So this can help cut down spamming. I think most groups I've worked at happen to turn this off. And this is found under our security configuration. So it's one way to help cut down on spamming if you have public links. And I need to go find that. Security, security, security. And it's right here at the top. Look at that. So we can just tick the box. This is instant. Again, this is probably something that you'll do once and forget exists. However, as admins, we have to be aware it exists. So when we talk to, say, an information security team, they're aware that, oh, this is something we can do. And this is something that we do, in fact, get control over. Do-do. Okay, this one I absolutely loved when I learned that I had. Global templates. Templates can be made global. No one told me this. I spent a lot of time adding templates to different spaces that were identical, and I could have just talked to an app admin, and they could have made it global. And that means every space gets access to it. They can also disable blueprints, those templates we get from Atlassian. Excuse me. And we can edit blueprints. I'm just sharing this with as many people as I can because this has driven me nuts for years. Again, we can make a global template. Everyone, every site can access it. And we can control and manage global blueprints to make sure that the blueprints people are using, make sense and are useful. So please take some time to go in and just either pull out those blueprints no one uses or edit them to make them useful. But this made me really happy when I learned about it. And that's another example of talking to the people who use Confluence and asking them, hey, what templates are useful? What can I promote or make global to help you get more access? And as a reminder, this is a good call out. Global templates are made by Confluence admins. Blueprints are created by Atlassian or developers. So that's the difference. A blueprint is given to you by a developer or Atlassian. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same as a template. There are some minor feature differences you'll see, but blueprints are just a single page template. They're not like a series of pages. It's not a whole structure. It's just one page at a time. Confluence permissions. 3 main layers, and this is on top of our ability to access the org. One, we have global permissions. Now, there's not too much in global permissions. I'm kind of annoyed that they call it their own thing. But this would be, do you have app access, which we cannot control? But in the context of being an admin, there's really a few global permissions. Things like, do you get a personal space and can you make a space? We also have the ability to control guests, public links, anonymous access, a connection to JSM and what they can see, and other apps. So again, this is at the app level. It's across the board. Everyone can access these. Frank, you are correct. Space admins can also adjust a blueprint, but their changes are only in the space they made the change in. So that's a good call out. As an app admin, I can change a blueprint, but a space admin might choose to disable it entirely. If I turn it off at the app level, though, space admins can't touch it. They just can't use it at all. What is so peaceful? Blueprints? Now, one layer down, there are space level permissions, and this is found at every space. We'll have, I think, a whole session just on these things because they're so annoying. There's a big update coming to them, though, with role-based access controls that I'm overly excited about. But one layer down from global permissions, we have individual space permissions. This is where you control who is a space admin. This is where you control what actions can someone take. And at the bottom level, we have page restrictions. So permissions are at the space level, restrictions are at the content level. This is just a terminology difference. I'll do my best to keep them straight. They can be insanely frustrating. There are different groups within Confluence. For the purposes of being an admin, we need to understand licensed users versus unlicensed. We cannot give someone a license or not. That's up to our org admin. But licensed users have paid for Confluence and gives them full access. Unlicensed users might get something like guest access, but they haven't paid for a license, so their access tends to be more restricted. So just keep in mind there can be unlicensed users floating around that will have a limited subset of features and abilities compared to a licensed user. Now, groups are not something we can create, which drives me crazy. I think Justin or Rodney or someone had a great suggestion around requesting group creation. That would make me so happy if I could do that as an app admin. But if we want groups, we have to go talk to the org admin or a user access admin. However, we can assign permissions based on groups. We can't say everyone in the super admin group gets the ability to make spaces. We also have guest users. They are free. You get up to 5 per paid user, but they get very limited access, typically a single space at a time. And this has to be, they have to be added by our org admin. So our org admin has to add in guests, and then we get to use them. But it's a great way to let in a consultant or someone who has a very specific targeted role. Keep in mind, though, you can't exceed your site user limit. So you can't have too many guests, and Atlassian will come after you if you're using guests instead of licenses. So another thing to keep in mind. And last, we have anonymous access. This means anyone on the internet can find it. So keep in mind, if you're sharing stuff anonymously, anyone on the internet can find it. And this is where, as an app admin, I'm overly paranoid over where is anonymous user set up, where is that access, and am I controlling it? Licensed users permissions we briefly spoke about. That's making a space. Typically, this is restricted. And I'm actually going to drop a quick question in here. I usually don't work in environments that let just anyone make a space, and that's because you'll quickly end up with 46 versions of the support team. I love how someone just hit no as quick as they could. Rodney, was that you? So typically, this is a fairly restricted permission, just to help ensure the new spaces are curated properly. I do see a lot of groups adding personal space, though, because this allows anyone to have their own space they can go play in, and they can go make modifications too, which is great. So this is typically something groups will do. They'll just give someone a personal space and say, go nuts, and then restrict creating a space. One thing to know about space admins, they can add other space admins. And space admins are usually not also app admins. For example, I am typically not an app admin where I work. I'm typically a space admin, though. So you'll see a lot more space admins, and space admins can make more space admins in the space they're a space admin of. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Inspecting permissions. This is a great tool. Oh, where is it? The inspect permissions tool lets you figure out what's going on with a user. Or how does someone have access to content? So I'm going to go just find a page real quick. So I've opened up this page. I'm going to click on Share, and I'm going to click on these three dots and inspect permissions. And here, if I type in someone's name, it's going to tell me, can they view this? Or I can change it, can they edit this? And then it gives me this great breakdown of why can I do that thing. So in this particular case, I can see, I have access to Confluence, I have a contact, I have access to the space, and this is where that contact option comes in. I can go send a notification to the admin saying I need help with this. If I'm disallowed, let's see if I can pick on maybe my friend Alex here. Well, nope, that doesn't help me. Do I have someone who's restricted? I might not. Andrew. Nope. Really quickly, I'll go break one of these just so, here we go, perfect. Me and Andrew. Of course, it's just me and Andrew. And I picked the one person who can see it. Here we go. This is a great tool because it's going to tell me where this person cannot view this content. So it's saying, I can see Confluence, I can see the space, I cannot see this thing because I don't have permission to view it. So this lets me untangle permissions problems very easily, much more easily than if I had to kind of click around and had to figure out what's going on. And there's 4 distinctions that can be allowed, denied. You can inherit a restriction, and that's only for pages. One thing you'll notice as we go, there's lots of content types, databases, etc., but pages are the most plugged into everything. So for example, databases and whiteboards don't show up in some places of analytics. Inherited doesn't show up here unless you're a page. And same thing for irrelevant. Wonderful tool. I use this a lot to untangle what the heck's going on. And then we can dig in to see what's happening. Now again, keep in mind, if someone doesn't have access to Confluence, you as the app admin can't help them. All you can do is go to the org admin and say, excuse me, can they get a license? That might mean an IT ticket. That might mean walking around your office. Sounds like I need to add Rodney as a restricted user. You don't want access to those pages, Rodney. They are a bunch of very old junk and gibberish that I really should start purging. All right, global permissions. They are broad controls, hence the name, global permissions. And they are, we're just looking at these actually, the personal space and creative space. One thing to keep in mind about a lot of these is they are group only. Now what I mean by that is I can only assign groups to these global permissions. I do not have the ability to add a single individual user here. So here I'm reliant on my org admin. If I go to edit this and I want to add a group, let me just find one, hopefully quickly. Nope. I'm reliant on my admin. Also, keep in mind that the name of the group doesn't necessarily tell you what the group does. All the name tells you is the name of the group. So we're hoping that my org admins have named these things well and that the org admin group just has my org admins, for example. Or that the Confluence users creators demo group just has the creators in the demo group. So that can be a source of frustration. If you're in Justin's case, he is the org admin and the Confluence admin. But if you're just the Confluence admin, like it sounds like his coworker, you're going to have to work with your org admin to figure out what these do. Adding guests is something else we can do only after they've been turned on by the org admin. And Frank, typically what we see in here is this setup. So my general users can have a personal space, but cannot create spaces. Now I've got a lot of other people working in here. I'll turn this back on for them. But typically, folks do not have create a space. That's been disabled because you want a little bit more control over that. Customize the look and feel. We have some options under customize. There we go. Customize navigation. Things like changing out your company's logo Again, this would be something we do maybe once or maybe when there's a new logo. But in here under customized navigation is where we can control things like the default colors, make sure these match your company's branding, that kind of thing. Rodney, that's a pretty good question. I would love if folks are over in our Discord to start sharing random group names. Tushar has a great question. If create space is disabled, how do you get your personal space? It's just created automatically. The system makes it as soon as you become a licensed user. So I don't have to take any action, Tushar, to make my personal space. When I log in, it's just there. Whereas with create a space, I have to go click a button and click a button to get it. The personal space just exists. Themes are something else. I personally haven't used themes. These are things we download from the marketplace that just change the look and feel of Confluence. Keep in mind, space admins can change the theme at their level, and individual users can also tinker with the theme here. So this is more about just making it available and setting a default. This is not about forcing everyone to use a particular theme. Yes, Frank, typically as soon as a group starts using Confluence, they'll make this decision to restrict create space, and they'll just kind of leave it there and, audit it once every 6 months just to make sure you still want to do it, kind of thing. We can also add a custom header footer. Again, I don't tinker with this too much, but this will show up on top of every page and live doc. You can do things like use markup to add text links, macros, etc. This can be overridden by the space admins. So I can set a global, a Confluence-wide one, but my space admins can put in their own header footer that will replace mine. So this is another example of the higher level admin can have a starting point. Here's the messaging I want, but an individual space admin can then decide to change it to be anything else. So we do get some control, but not unlimited control in that sense. All right, and last topic is exporting content. I don't export content too much, mainly because Confluence is a living, breathing space. There are use cases, and I'm quickly going to just drop a poll. Curious if folks do export content, why they choose to do it. Now, at the space level, we have multiple options. At the single piece of content, it's a PDF or a Word format, essentially. So as a space admin, we can suck out the whole thing. These different formats have different uses. Again, a Word doc. Interesting. Only the first 50 attached images are included. That is a very arbitrary number. Word doc and PDF are the most common for individual things. HTML is to convert the space into a static website. I don't know why you would want a static version of Confluence unless you're in some kind of restricted environment or there's some legal or governance thing. And then XML or CSV is to back up Confluence or export it and import it elsewhere. So similar, like a limited-ish use case. This one Rodney's pointing out is one of the more common ones. If you have a cold start manual for your network, everything goes offline, or a malware, a ransomware response kind of thing, I could see that being what you want to do. But we do have the ability to control them. And it looks like so far a third of us are saying emergency guides. Okay, folks, we are pretty much done with our first chunk. If you haven't, please definitely check out the link to my friends over at Service Rocket. That link will let them know you found them through me, which is the easiest way to support the channel, in addition to hitting that like and thumbs up button down at the bottom. Let me grab the link so you'll have it. Do. And again, that link will take you to information around their crew member program. So it's a way to find freelance projects working in Atlassian. And so it's useful for those of us who want a little bit more flexibility and don't want to go out on our own, for example, and make our own company or find our own folks. And this is mainly targeted at folks who are ACP certified. So if you've got an ACP, this is a great option just to see what's out there. If you follow the link, it's not saying you will work with them or you have to. It's just more information about this program they have. So definitely check it out. There is more information there. And it's something that I've spoken to folks who've done it. I've done it. It's been a great use of my time and a great way for me to get a little bit more work than I would have otherwise. So, tips and next steps. Please study on your own. We're going to cover a lot of stuff over the next 8 weeks, I think, or 10 weeks. There's a couple of holidays. But you will be most successful if you study on your own. And you can't get everything you need out of this just by coming here once a week and spending 1 hour with me. You'll get a lot, but your own hands-on experience is super important for your success taking this course. Now, this is recorded, and all of these will be recorded on this YouTube channel, so come back here anytime to take a look at them. Excuse me. And also attend next week's session. We will be talking about automations. So please come next week. It will be next Monday. So these sessions will be Mondays for the most part. There's a couple holidays that bump that around. But same time, same place, Mondays at 6 a.m. And please shoot me an email if you need help or join us in that Discord channel. I'll drop that link again here. And it looks like most of us don't export content, which is okay. And one last poll, was this a helpful session? I will have one more shout out to another study resource. I have an entire course just about the 220, and again, I'll keep calling it that just due to bad habit, but the Confluence Cloud Admin. I'll add one in here that does not include a certification that vouchers, so it'll be cheaper. So if you're looking for more study guides, more study support, check out this site, learn.hean.tech, and that'll have a lot more. Whoop, I'm going the wrong way here. I mean to go this way. A lot more resources to help you out. Anyway, folks, I do want to thank you. I enjoy doing these. I'm glad you are all here, about 30 folks. We're sitting at about 13 likes, which is amazing. But I appreciate you taking time to learn with me. I got excited when they made this certification because up until now, there hadn't been a consistent Atlassian Confluence admin cert. They have a general user level one, the 920, I think it is. But this one is for us admins, which made me happy. So please take a moment to like the video. Make sure you mark on your calendars next Monday, the 22nd at 6 a.m. Pacific. And scan that code to check out my friends over at Service Rocket. So thank you all. Hope to see you in Discord. Hope to see you next Monday. I'll leave the chat open for a minute. But otherwise, have a great Tuesday wherever you are. And I will see you all